Okay, good evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Commander James Cooch Kujwara. Thank you. Speaking of Commander Kujwara, we have a proclamation that's going to be read this evening. Right. I'm not sure if there's anyone here from the Kujwara family, but we have a proclamation honoring Commander James Cooch Kujwara, March 8th, 2023. Whereas James Cooch Kujwara was born in Scranton to John and Rose Kelly Kujwara, and whereas in 1968, James graduated from Scranton Technical High School, and whereas James was a devoted member of Mary Mother of God Parish in North Scranton, and whereas James was a proud husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, and friend, and whereas James honorably served in the United States Army during the Vietnam War, and whereas after returning from his military service, James worked in the local construction contractors industry, as well as spending over 30 years working for Pennsylvania American Gas and Water Company. And whereas James was president and a member of the local IBEW for UGI and a member of the Masonry Union. And whereas James is best known for his service and leadership to the Scranton and veteran community in his position as commander of the VFW Post 25. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Paige G. Cognetti, along with the Scranton City Council members, on behalf of the City of Scranton, would like to honor and thank Commander James Cooch Kujwara for his dedication to the Scranton community. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, minutes of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority Board of Directors meeting held on February 2nd, 2023. 3B, minutes of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority regular meeting held February 1st, 2023. 3C, correspondence received February 28th, 2023 from OECD regarding code enforcement report. 3D, licenses and permits report received March 2nd, 2023 for the month of February 2023 from OECD. 3E, cumulative licenses and permits report for 2023.
Are there any comments on third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I had two. I just wanted to say happy Women's History Month, and I also wanted to say happy Purim to all those who celebrate. Thank you.
I would just like to announce that on Friday, March 10th, there's going to be a flag raising. I believe it's the Irish American men are going to be raising the Irish flag here in front of City Hall. I know that the mayor and a few other dignitaries will be greeting the group from Ballina, Ireland, our sister city, pretty much probably about a half an hour or so before that in City Hall. And So we're looking forward to that, along with the Scranton St. Patrick's Day Parade, which will be celebrated on Saturday, beginning with the Mass at 10 a.m. at the Cathedral, and the parade, which will begin at 11:45 a.m. That's all. Thank you.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodawan at Scranton. So where's my audit? Hello?
It's coming.
Aha. Well, have you know that as of today, this audit is the latest audit for at least 20 years. Okay? Koyansky's been late for 4 years in a row. I still want to know whether the mayor intends to enact that penalty clause, and if not, why not?
We're
This is
told
Mon-
that, I'm sorry, Joan, Friday, March 10th, that's this week, that they'll have everything that they need, so I'm expecting that will be done in short order from there.
Yeah, I still want to know whether or not we're going to get that penalty clause of 10%.
I asked the mayor that question, I'm still waiting to,
Okay, looks like it's time to write a letter to the editor. Okay, oh, also, when are we going to see the legislation for the next auditor, Clifford, Lawson, and Allen?
for the hiring of them.
Yes,
I would expect that will be coming up probably within the next week or two.
let's hope so. They're already behind the power curve. What's going on with the police and firefighter negotiations, their arbitrations?
Same as reported last week. Hopefully have the fire resolved by the end of March, and the police, we're hoping that will begin beginning of April.
I'm wondering whether or not we're going to see some backdated pay raises. That could be a little bit expensive for the city. Also, I still don't see the DPW contract on the city website, the one that was supposedly approved last September. So I'm waiting on that.
Mr. Voldenberg, can you check with the administration, see where they're at with that?
I will, sir.
Thank you.
I saw on the city's website, however, that we do have the February 28th data on delinquent trash fees, which is good. When are we going to start seeing the delinquent property taxes?
We'll have to reach out to Kathy Wexler and see if we can get a report on that as well.
Okay. As of the February 28th, it's looking like we were owed almost $11.3 million, which brings up the whole issue that Faye Francis has been addressing, and that is picking up the trash and recyclables for commercial businesses and nonprofits. If we can't get that $11 million from the people we're billing, we have no business giving a free ride to commercial business and nonprofits who are already getting a break on taxes. I say, let them hire a private hauler. They're already getting a free ride on the tax side. Oh, I'm sure you all read your own agenda and backup, and you looked at the SRA minutes for February 1st. Very interesting paragraph on the sale of the ice box to Geisinger, and I'll read a little bit of it. Geisinger has purchased from BRT Ice the ice box for $23 million. There has been ongoing litigation between the city, OECD, SRA, and BRT Ice, that was the seller, regarding a loan in the amount of $600,000 and has not been paid back to the city. Solicitor Kelly of the SRA is eager to know, and so am I, whether or not SRA will move forward with litigation to petition to set aside the deed, or to see if there will be some type of resolution for SRA to get its money back. And SRA is part of the city. I would like to know what's going on with that litigation and that $600,000. We've been giving a lot to Geisinger, and I'm wondering how this sale went through with this loan hanging in the balance. We need to know an answer to that. And this 5C, the grant for 20 bare root trees to be planted on land owned by the city and nonprofit organizations. I know this pocket park in downtown Scranton that could use all 20 trees. Why are we planting them for nonprofits? Let them buy their own trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hodowanitz. Faye Franis.
Faye Franis, Scranton. Take a look at this. Take a close look at this. This is just one of the bars in North Scranton that had the recyclables out of the curb this morning. They put it out last night or early this morning. They did not put it out at the curb this morning for a private hauler to come, because today is recycling day in North Scranton. They put it out to have the DPW pick it up. Now, Mr. Petroface said that the director said they're not going to be doing that anymore. Well, let's see what happens to these cans. If they're still there in a week, that means he's telling the truth. If they're not, that means the DPW will pick them up again. We've been paying for them for 7 years. And the last 2.5 years is when they started paying tonnage. So, Mr. Smurl, you started all this crap about giving them a $300. They have 672 cans a year, 432 cans a year. I have 24, maybe some people have 36 a year. These people should be paying $5,400 a year if garbage fees are $8,400, not $300. And the tonnage, 40 of these, this is 20 cans right here. Twice a month, that's 40. 40 cans is a ton. We pay the citizens that have been paying for them for 2.5 years. All the taxpayers have been paying for all these special interests, special people that the DPW and the city of Scranton is taking care of. We've been paying that tonnage fee for them. Some of them are $480 a year or more. So they got a free ride, but I understand you, Mr. Smurl, maybe you, Mr. Schuster, want to make an exemption for the VFWs and the American Legions. They're a nonprofit. They don't even pay property tax. You better not do that, because you're going to be starting a war. Because why should they get a break and every nonprofit in the city doesn't? You can't do for one and not for all. It says a private hauler. Do you know a private hauler is a lot less expensive than a garbage fee and tonnage? When you get a private hauler, they charge the bar the price of the tonnage. And they pay the hauler to take it away. They cannot keep doing this. So Mr. Smurl and Mr. Schuster, anybody else up there that wants to give these people, these special people, these chosen few, these bars, not few, many, many, many. Many people tonight told me how many times they've seen bars and restaurants having the recycling truck come and pick them up, the DPW. Well, so Mr. Smurl, my goal is going to be from now until November to make sure you do not get elected, because you have two faces. When you were at the Recreation Authority, you were completely against when the slide was turned on. I understand you were banging on the table and you wanted to prosecute the mayor because it was terrible that you did that. It was terrible. But now all of a sudden, you're the mayor's favorite person. I wonder why you got appointed to do her bidding. And this is going to, well, if I have to put signs out for everybody else, I'm going to, and I'm going to spread the word. You are not for the people. You are for the businesses and the special interests and the people that are being taken care of by the DPW and the city. Why would you want to take care of businesses instead of the residents and taxpayers that pay your salary, by the way, Mr. Smurl? Another thing I want to get into, and I'll be back next week to hear anything you say in motions. I'm going to be back to counteract anything you may say tonight. Because you may have the last word tonight, but I'll have one again next week. Another thing, the DPW, I did a right to know to get the overtime for the supervisor because they get paid overtime. I got the name of the supervisor, how many hours they worked, and the amount of money they made. But now when I did it for February, they do not want to give any reasons why they're working. No reasons at all. So what is that? That's deception and fraud. They want to do this so there's no accountability at all for all the overtime. They just write down, I worked so many hours. There's no proof. There's no record. When I did it for the whole year last year, the first half of the year, there was no records. The last half, there was records. But they were all made up, most of them. So now they don't want to do any. They said there are no records available. Why isn't the city controller going after them? He said it's not his responsibility. It is his responsibility to see if there's so much overtime being spent and nobody's doing anything about it. Now, the director of DPW, Scott Petroface, Last year, he made $47,000. Guess what he made in overtime? $29,000 plus a couple hundred more. $29,000 in overtime. But now that he got $47,000 last year, now he's getting $75,000. He can't work overtime now as a director. But he doesn't need to because he's making all that money with the extra raise. But the supervisors are still getting overtime right and left, and all the workers. For what reason? They won't give a reason. Now, don't you think we as taxpayers who are paying that money, we have a right to know exactly what they're doing overtime? And I expect this council to make sure that they make a note of every day anybody works and the reason that they're working. The taxpayers have to know how their money, we're paying for that. We have a right to know how our money is being spent. So you council, that's your responsibility to make sure they get those records every month with a reason why they're working overtime.
Thank you, Ms. Faranis. Mr. Voldenberg, can you send a note down to Mr. Petrofis to see how they track overtime and how they identify exactly, what work is being done during that overtime? Thank you.
I will, Mr. King.
Mr. Voldenberg, could you also add to that and get the each of the supervisors and what they totaled last year in overtime apiece?
I will, sir.
Thanks.
David Rinaldi.
Good evening. I'm David Rinaldi. I'm the property owner of 212 Colfax, and I'm here to make some remarks on what is listed as Motion B on your agenda tonight. And I just want to stick with the recent history because the negotiations between the neighborhood and Geisinger have been going on and on for years and years, but we thought we had an agreement. And then all of a sudden, on the anniversary of the insurrection in Washington, the map was changed. It was changed, and we were here at the Planning Commission meeting. Attorney Skikiti, Ed Skikiti, who lives on Arthur Avenue, provided this February 21st letter to the Planning Commission. I don't know whether you've seen it or not. But anyway, we thought we had an agreement. The map changed. We could not find out why it changed. And at that PC meeting, Attorney Skikiti provided these renderings of exactly what it's going to look like on the, this would be the odd side of Colfax, and behind the house is on Wheeler, the 200 block. Okay? 100 foot high. Now, what I want to say to council is this. I don't know why they all of a sudden decided they needed a 100-foot garage, but I know that they upset the entire neighborhood. Mostly my neighbors are concerned about myself and the people on Wheeler who are going to be most affected. In that letter, Attorney Skikiti asked why there was a change in the map, and we never got an answer. But I want to go on to say this, that in 2021, Geisinger had $8.1 billion in revenues. The numbers aren't out for 22. $8.1 billion. They spent $23 million on the icebox. Then they come back and somehow the map changes. And so what I'm suggesting to council is, council has a couple of opportunities here, one of which is to either not move forward on the motion and hold it in abeyance, and ask Geisinger, I'm sure the representative is here tonight, to sit down at this table with myself and the other 3 property owners on the 200 block of Colfax and the people who live on the 200 block of Wheeler behind there, and negotiate for what is acceptable if they're going to put up 100-foot tall parking garages. They never said this. We have never been able, even in the beginning, they said they were going to give us the plan, give us the plan, give us the plan. They never did. So you have an opportunity, really, to lobby on behalf of the people who have lived in this city, who have paid taxes for years. You have two competitors of Geisinger. You have UMPC, and you have Lehigh Valley, which just built a hospital. So you don't have to worry about them going somewhere else. They're not going to go anywhere else. They spend millions of dollars already. So what I am suggesting is that we will sit down right here at this table, in front of the cameras, in front of the Times, Mr. Lepsnesky, and we will try to, in good faith, negotiate a solution to that before you go forward and just approve what they're looking for, which changed, of course, on January 6th. So I'd like you to think about that, and think about the fact that you're talking about $1 billion corporation here. $1 billion corporation. All we are is property owners in the city of Scranton who've lived here our whole lives. Me in particular, I've owned property in this city my entire life. I've had a business here for 40-plus years. I've supported the city. I mean, at least I would never negotiate the way Geisinger did. But you have an opportunity to have them come back and negotiate in public, in good faith, and then make a decision on whether or not you want to change the zoning in that area. And I understand that it's the whole zoning map. It's all the different zones, and it's part of SAPA.
Thank you, Mr. Rinaldi.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Drew Simpson.
President King, Vice President McAndrew, and council members, good evening. My name is Drew Simpson. I am the Regional Manager for the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, representing the hardworking men and women of Carpenters Local Union 445 in Scranton. I'm here tonight to speak on Agenda Item 5B and to speak in favor of the proposed zoning ordinance that is on the agenda for later this evening. When passed, this ordinance will allow Geisinger CMC Hospital to move forward with 2 parking garages that will be built by the best trained, skilled carpenters in the industry. These carpenters will be earning family-sustaining wages, be receiving health insurance, and also earning a pension and annuity so that they can have a dignified retirement when their career is over. When projects like this are built in the city, it allows us to offer high school graduates from Scranton schools or anyone looking for a career the opportunity to join our tuition-free apprenticeship program where they will earn while they learn. Geisinger CMC has continued to grow, and while growing, have put millions of dollars into construction projects, allowing our carpenters to work close to home. If these garages are not allowed to be built, what does that mean for future construction projects of expansion at this facility? We can't afford the possibility that this first-class medical facility may look elsewhere to continue to grow. I believe that these garages will help with the parking in Nayak Park and on the streets surrounding the hospitals that may cause patients and visitors to walk blocks to come to the facility. So in closing, I encourage council to vote yes for the zoning ordinance so we can get our people working. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Al Young.
Al Young, Scranton resident. Now you can turn the clock on. Good evening, council members. As some of you already know, I applied for a building permit 5 weeks ago. It's been held up by the law department for reasons that Mr. Jenkins thinks that there may be a no-build clause on Meadowbrook. Well, if that were true, then why on earth did the city allow the garage next door to me to be placed back over the new culvert that they just spent over $150,000 to build? My question to you all, and I hope the law department and the mayor and anybody else listening in Lips are listening. My car and a carport may weigh 2 tons. Now, I'm not planning to build this on the creek. I have not planned to build it over the creek. I plan on erecting it next to and behind my deck, which gives me about 3 to 4 feet before the creek is available. Now, I measured the garage floor next door. There is 15 3/4 yards of concrete, which weighs 63,000 pounds as a base, plus the foundation, plus a 2-car garage on top of the whole unit. I'm assuming that this may weigh in the neighborhood of maybe 68,000 pounds. And there's a no-build clause? Who are they trying to BS here? It's time that we get on with the nonsense. This 34 tons is a far cry from my two-ton addition. I really think it's time for the city to get past my litigation and think of what is going on and think of the proper thing to do. I sent Mr. King, Don King, an email about this problem at the beginning, and he has yet to respond. And I think this is part of his duty. I think it's time that the city takes stock in who they appoint or who they hire and what the hell they know about what they're doing. Please, at least get this thing going. 5 weeks, it's about time. If I lose my down payment on this, you want another litigation? I don't think.
Thank you, Mr. Young. We will look into that. Ron Ellman.
Yeah, thank you. As you know, I'm not a happy camper, but believe it or not, I understand the need of a consultant to address the rising questions that were in the paper this morning about making it more livable here and invest-wise. You need a consultant or a necessity when we have such a pathetic, incompetent mod of employees as the Licensing Bureau, the Traffic Office, the Mayor's Office, the City Administration, and the City Council. You people you're pro-city, but you're not pro-taxpayer. We're the ones that are paying all the bills. All we hear about's a bunch of deadbeat developers downtown that do everything humanly possible to avoid their tax obligations. You know how I've been complaining for 6 months, 4 months about my tickets I got from the city for rubbish. Next door didn't get any tickets, and it was his rubbish. They cited me. They've been picking on me. It doesn't make sense to me or anybody that's been involved in it. My whole neighborhood has declined terrible. Nobody cares. I got that slumlord next door parking cars in the yard. They have destroyed my house values. You haven't lifted a finger about it. Don't care about parking on the yard. Across the streets, another guy, the house is in shambles. He lives in New York. He phoned me a couple years ago and wanted to see if I'd buy the house. The house needs to be torn down. It's abandoned, just the roof is caved in. Next door is the mob that parks on city property. They have destroyed city property. They're from Virginia and park cars there. They don't pay taxes. Has any of you ever thought about telling them to repair the property and park someplace? They're the ones with 7 cars. One house doesn't need 7 cars, and half of them don't run. They got one junk they put out in the street now for a couple of weeks. All this is, I've had I don't know, 4 or 5 people have talked to me about the same problems in their neighborhood. All we hear about is praise for this part of the city and praise for that part. You people don't tell the truth. You know, maybe I ought to crank up my son's computer. It's sitting on the floor. And get out there and tell the facts and tell the truth so the whole city can see what Bidenville is really like. It's not the utopia that you think it is downtown. And I got one other question that I've been brought to my attention 3 or 4 times. When the reassessment is over, who is going to make the final status of the tax status of our properties? I know some people better than me have tried to find out. There doesn't seem to be any answer. That seems like it's more important than some of the silly things that go on in this very room day after day. Anybody have an idea? You know, tell the public, or is that going to be another secret around here?
That's a countywide tax reassessment.
Yes. All right.
The assessment office.
Y'all just turn around, make a turnaround and start giving some attention to the city and the neighborhoods. I don't know if anybody ever goes to Sheets, but every time I pull in there, somebody cries about the teachers, the schools. Our schools are at the bottom of the barrel, and you have some no English-speaking immigrants dictating
Thank you, Mr. Elman.
school policy.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to talk.
Eli Virtue.
Hello, I'm Eli Vodchuk from Leslie Drive, and I don't know if any of you are aware, but a few weeks ago, Lackawanna Bridge, I think, there was a SUV that went over the barrier, and I was wondering if we could just get a reflector or something put on it to help protect drivers so at night they could see it.
I'm sorry, what, Lackawanna Bridge?
I think so. It's right when you come in to town from the East Mountain section. There's a vehicle over the barrier, and I was just wondering if we could get like a reflector or something so when you're making that turn you could see it.
Oh,
Spruce Street.
Oh, okay,
Biden.
so a vehicle went over the bridge. Okay.
The barrier, cement barrier.
Okay, thank you, Eli. Can we have our highways inspectors or the police department take a look at that and evaluate that for lighting or reflection to make that
I will, Mr. King.
more visible? That exhausts the sign-in list. Is there anyone else like to be heard? I would ask you please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Zanthus. I wasn't coming here to speak today, but I've tried all my resources.
I'm sorry, what is your name again? I'm sorry.
Kristen Zanthus,
Okay, and where are you?
Dixon Avenue.
Dixon Avenue, okay.
I don't know if there's anywhere that you guys can tell me to go to try to find, I guess, funding, because Colt says they have none to get security, but they have enough funding to build a new building. There was a meeting on March 22nd at 4:30 at the board meeting at the Lackawanna Transit Center. I don't know if anybody can attend it, but, I mean, I don't want to see somebody else have the same thing happen. I go to
Does this pertain to the article that was in the
Yeah.
paper? Okay, all right. Thank you.
I go to another hearing soon for that person that's still in jail for right now. But, you know, I don't know what that's going to come of. But, I mean, one person, you know, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this city, but you don't know how people are. I mean, the people come from everywhere that go there. And, I mean, I understand there's security here, that's fine. I'm not saying anything against that. It's just that is a big place daily, from morning till late evening. And people go in and out of there. And what happened should have happened. But, I mean, I don't know if anybody can attend that, but, I mean, you know, it's not very safe down there, and that's part of the city, so.
So that's the Lackawanna, the multimodal transportation
Yeah.
center at the end of Lackawanna Avenue, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
know, can we reach out to the police chief and, you know, either between them and the sheriff's department and see if there's anything that can be done to try to improve at least police visibility down there and lighting? Maybe we can look into that as well.
We have, Mr. King, a number of times, and I'll reach out again.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Hi, good evening. My name is Megan Wolbach. I'm a taxpayer in the city of Scranton. I'm also a nursing leader at Geisinger Community Medical Center. I really felt compelled to be here this evening to really talk about the struggles that we're seeing in our hospital just because of the lack of much needed space and services. Our undersized emergency department, our aging, imaging, and diagnostic services, as well as just our semi-private bed model, I think are really standing in the way of us being able to take better care of our community. Our hospital every day is faced with capacity constraints. We're averaging about 110, 115% capacity every day. Our emergency department, if anyone has had the chance to be in there, it's just flooded with patients on stretchers in the hallway, a very busy waiting area. People left even without being seen, which is unfortunate and I think a disservice to our community, but just we don't have the space for all of these patients. And I think we have taken a lot of time to take advantage of literally every nook and cranny to put a stretcher, a wheelchair, anything, but it's just not enough space. We have patients waiting for hours just to even move up to an inpatient bed, on average about 8 hours. And that's because our inpatient beds or units are at the same capacity. You know, for this community, we have just outgrown our footprint. And again, really looking at how we better serve our community, you know, our own family members, our behavioral health patients. It's unfortunate, but we have about 250 behavioral health patients coming in every month in crisis. Geisinger CMC is the only hospital in this area to take those patients, so they wait hours, on average 39 hours, to even get to the right bed. And it's sad. We have so many young children all the way up to geriatrics, you know, sitting in a room getting medication, but they are not receiving the therapy that they need while being in crisis. As a nursing leader, I talk to my nursing colleagues every day, my physicians, and they're just strained. They're burned out. They're going home, and it saddens me to say they go home feeling like they didn't do a good job. And they did. They're taking care of sick patients in our hospital, and they work hard every day, but to go home and feel like you didn't give enough because they weren't able to get their patient to the right level of care timely, or to have the right service or the space to provide the care that they want to. Again, it's just going back to what can we do to better serve our community. I really feel like a larger, improved hospital is what we need to care for the patients that are coming to us, not only for the providers, for our doctors, our nurses, to have the space they need, but it's also for our patients, our family members, to have an experience that they can heal. Because I will tell you, in their patient satisfaction surveys or when I'm talking to families, the space constraints are probably one of the biggest frustrations for them, because it's not at times providing that healing environment. So what I would like to ask this evening for all of you is to just really consider the rezoning. It's what our community needs. It's what our employees need to do or to give exceptional care, and it's what our patients need to heal and to be where they're going to be safest to get them back home. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Ms. Wolbach, could you please give your address?
I am not a Scranton resident.
Thank you.
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Well, it's a very interesting statement that we just heard, but unless they plan on doing a military triage and stacking patients in the parking garage, I really don't think that a parking garage will change the amount of ER space, the amount of beds in the hospital, unless, like I said, they plan on using the garage to do the triage and actually put patients out in parking spaces while they're waiting for that 8 hours for the room to clear. A solution of a parking garage does not at all address patient care. Makes it easier to park for the staff so they don't have to pay for parking, give a donation to the parks in lieu of actually having to pay for their people to park in the neighborhood. But it's a little disingenuous to say that a parking garage will increase care and suddenly make equipment in the hospital better and newer. The barrier in question that was talked about was there's a cement barrier in the middle of the road between the University of Scranton and the hotel that when you leave Center City, you're going towards the Scranton Expressway. That little barrier in the center is solid concrete with a V, and the person drove up onto it basically in the middle and lifted themselves up. When it is wet and raining out...
That happened tonight, Mr. Coyne?
That happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I believe.
Thank you.
And what happened was the rain, when it hits that certain area, not only makes the concrete dark and black, but it makes the roadway, which makes it very hard to be visible. I would recommend, rather than just a reflector, to get yellow line tape and put a yellow line along the top sides of that cement barrier, just to make that center divider completely visible to people who are turning there, especially in times when there's inclement weather where it may not be visible. On to consultants. We talk about a lot of consultants here helping in the city. There was an article that I read recently about it. Cities have been turning to consultants all over the place. The average government spending on consultants is about 20% of the construction of any projects they do. It's a big business and a big cost that none of it is done in-house and all of it's farmed out. And oftentimes, consultants get paid multiple times just because what they first come up with is never what is decided on, and they go back for rewrites again and again and get paid again and again for each one of those rewrites. Running the consultant sometimes is necessary, but being able to do it in-house also should be a step, at least for getting the beginning plans out. It should be available for any government to figure out what they need and then move forward with a prospective plan to a consultant, rather than having a consultant propose everything in the beginning and move from there. Looking at the recent Recovery Act funds, if you take a look at the walkability study, we've heard a lot about the walkability study.
As a matter of fact, there's about $120,000 that has already been spent from the recovery funds on the walkability study. We have no study in hand. We have nothing firm, but we've already spent $120,000 on it. That's a lot of money for nothing. Sure, we've talked about a few stop signs here, removing street lights, making some things wider, but as far as I'm concerned, $120,000 for what we've seen so far is not compensation for the amount of money that we've brought in. And last, I brought before this body for the zoning the concept of public dedication. Public dedication allows construction in this city, but part of it is dedicated through this zoning change to parks. To not have that in this or considered in this is robbing the children of 30 years of subsidized parks mandated by developers. That's 2 generations of 15 years for kids that you are throwing away because no one conceived of what is actually in the code that says when you build something, you're allowed to make a mandatory dedication that goes to parks alone. But it seems the park and the children aren't that important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Okay, I'm going to try and talk fast because I wanted to talk all about this and address what Mr. Smurl had said at the end of last week's meeting. But now that I have the nurse manager here from Geisinger and heard everything she said, I would love to ask her some questions, and even if she can share time with her answers. I would like you guys to look through that packet. That packet is the renderings that Mr. Smurl had talked about seeing up at the hospital last year. Now, if you look at the front page and the last page, it'll tell you that these renderings are not, are subject to change. So if they're subject to change, then they're meaningless. That's number one. Number two, they did come to a compromise on the 400 block, and they completely refused to compromise on the 200 block. I'm here for the 200 block because the 200 block of Colfax doesn't deserve a 100-foot building. Why they can't have a 45-foot parking garage is obscene. I mean, the parking garage is going to go the entire length of the block, so why does it have to be so high that it ruins their whole quality of life? Also, the other thing I wanted to address with that, which just left my mind, I'm sorry to say, is the buildings. Now, in that packet, you should have something that tells you all the things they bought and what they plan to do with it. The Olive Street Medical Office Building is what they want to do with Olive Street, is make it offices. The Geisinger Orthopedics and Medicine Building, Geisinger Mount Pleasant, Geisinger Behavioral. They definitely need all those things, but the behavioral is actually going into another building that's, I believe, the one in Pittston, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. And that should empty, if I'm not mistaken, the whole 7th floor of the hospital, which should give them another whole floor. So nowhere in this thing does it say that they're going to have the cancer center, of course, in Dixon City. So nowhere in this does it address the problem of what I'm reading in the paper and seeing on Facebook. And most of the people are more upset that there's no pediatrics and that there's no pediatrics specialized emergency, and they have to take their kids all the way down to the Weiss Center in Danville. And none of that's addressed in this. It's a cardiac unit. You have it in your packet there. It tells you the different units that they're going to put in when they rip down the other side of the 300 and put it in. And nowhere is there a pediatrics or anything like that. Now, what I would love to ask the nurse manager is, can you tell me, honestly, because this could be just a rumor, that there are sections of the floors closed because they don't have enough staff to staff them? I'd like to know that. I'd also like to know if your employees have to pay for parking, because last I heard they did, and that's why they never park there, because they don't want to take the chunk out. So you're going to build a 40-foot high building across the street from you, taking up almost the entire block. And unless they're going to give them free parking, they're not going to park there anyway. They're still going to park in front of our houses and around the corner and up on the 5 and 600. Unless this is Geisinger's way of making sure they can't park for free like in the park or anything, and they have to pay back to the hospital the fee to park there. Is it true that the nurses are unionized?
Doris, excuse me.
Well, I don't want to be taking up my time. Can you do it?
No, but you're to address council. We don't get into the debate with the, if you want to speak to Ms. Molbach afterwards.
Okay, all right.
Thank
Well,
you.
this is going to my
Those are the
problem.
rules. Okay.
I won't speak to her then, but this is going to my problem then, because they destroyed my neighborhood. They brought down all the houses. You had the NeighborWorks people here. I was block captain for 2 years. When they called me last year, I said, I don't have a block anymore. Can I go off my block if I want to do an improvement in my house? So what I'm saying is that you are putting up 2 garages. I could read this part that was a letter to the editor from a woman who lives in Waverly about how she has to take her child down. And she wants Geisinger to expand because she thinks she won't have to take her child to the Janet Weiss Center every time it has some kind of medical issue. But that's not true. It's 2 parking garages, and then they're putting like a cardiac and a trauma and an ER. The other thing is, most of the time I've seen when I go to the ER over there, is that the reason isn't because there's no room that all the people are piled up. It's because they don't have staff. They have like 1 ER doctor. So you're waiting, and you could be waiting there, and obviously if someone comes with a heart attack and you're there with a bleeding finger, the heart attack's going to take precedence, so you're pushed back and you're waiting even longer.
Thank you, Doris.
Oh, a red light. I'm sorry.
No, that's
but
all
please
right.
look
I
over-
let you
please
extend
look
because
over
I
my
cut you
packet.
off. I'm sorry.
Please look over my packet.
We will. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident of Scranton, taxpayer and so forth. All righty. I always seem to get on the wrong page anyway. Just before, damn. I had this all mapped out. At any rate, I also caught notice of that planting trees in front of nonprofits. I mean, I have to object to the name nonprofit, the very name, because it's a tax exempt. And in some cases, they just kind of do a few good things and drift by, and other times you even hear some scandals where the upper echelon is living high off the hog, and they have a bunch of volunteer workers beating their brains out for it. And it's just, I don't think we should be doing anything on a thing of planting trees for that. We should take care of our parks and best we can, as we have heard and noticed over the years here. There's quite a few amenities lacking and curtailed from our parks, and we just can't afford them. I don't need another tax increase. I'm just drifting by on trying to get by. So with all of the gas company got to use some kind of formula where gas went up and people were cutting back and we didn't have that bad of a winter. So, oh, they have the right to charge you all the more for shipping all the less gas to your front door. You know, my gas bill's about $75 over last year, and we have a warmer winter. Figure that out, you know. Everybody makes a mistake in their favor, more or less. And basically, I have to agree with Mrs. The lady with the recycling. I just forgot, Faith Frannis. I don't like to rip into anybody that much, but I would suggest that we look into that and make some changes there. And 2 weeks ago, we had a COVID rumor statement or fraud. Last week, it was the lockdown. I mean, everybody beat up on Dr. Fauci and our epidemiologist and so forth. And it's just a shame that, you know, 1.2 million people dying of COVID and currently 500 a day. And if you look at some of our hospital problems like Geisinger, you know, I actually had what I called a drive-by angioplasty on my leg. I was joking around with the doctors in 2019, or 2021 it was actually, and they got me into the hospital that day, and 3 hours later I was walking out because they didn't have any room for anybody, and it was an emergency to get that artery opened. So that's the kind of situation with the COVID. I mean, that's practically destroyed the hospitals. So, gee, I don't know about parking space and everything else. I certainly wish that things would improve, but they might need a little help from the public here. Start protecting yourself and get out and get vaccinated. It's not that bad. Buy a bottle of Jack Daniels on the way home and sit down, do it on a Saturday, and you'll be feeling fine in no time.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Smurl, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. My first is the front stairs at City Hall last week was brought up by Mr. Spindler to replace, I believe it's the bluestone out there. I did some research and found the Historical Architecture Review Board did recommend to replace the bluestone to keep the building looking like it's supposed to look. And that, I believe, was about 8 months ago. So I don't know if we're going to move forward. So, Mr. Voldenberg, will you ask the city, whoever that project is in charge of that project, if they are going to take the advice of the Architecture Review Board, or are they planning to put concrete in there, or what fixes they're going to happen there?
I'll find that out, sir.
Thank you. And I was also at the DPW building, the garage where they repair all the trucks. I believe that building is only 19 years old, but the heavy lift equipment where they lift all of the heavy trucks, the floor is crumbling around all of them and seem to be in very poor condition. And also where they work on the trucks, there is a pit underneath where they walk underneath to do the underneath work, change oil and such. That pit seems to be way too short for the equipment we have today. Maybe at the time it was built, it was okay, but now if you park the truck on top of the pit, you cannot get down underneath. You have to crawl under the front engine of the truck. So that doesn't seem to be safe. So if our city engineer will go down, look at the concrete, and also see if we can bring that pit up to today's standards. Maybe it's the equipment is bigger, but it's an unsafe condition for our employees. And then one last thing, on Adams Avenue, behind the old Central High School, where you come around the side of it, where Adams Avenue goes into North Washington Avenue. There seems to be 3 lanes there. One lane turns, you can turn left and go down, and the other 2 lanes quickly run together. So if you can ask, I believe if we can do a study there to find out if we can put some markings on the road, maybe the left turn behind the building to turn left, and then the other 2 lanes to merge together properly, or to line them so that it's a little safer to merge there.
I'll make that suggestion, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Smurl. Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I have several, 2 of which were brought up in public comment tonight. So I've asked on several occasions about that, the 1700 of Wyoming, you know, when it was brought up in public comment tonight. It's taking 5 weeks to get a permit. I know I've asked at least twice, Mr. Voldenberg, could we please inquire about that again? And just to make a comment on that, I don't think it should be taking 5 weeks to gain a city permit. I did have some correspondence with the assistant planner, Craig Beavers, about the land and fee in lieu for parks and rec. It was brought up some information was given to us, and it was brought up again in comment tonight. He did have some decent answers for me, but can we reach out to Craig and also Don King, see if we can get an answer in writing why the fee and land in lieu of parks and rec wouldn't be added to the new zoning ordinance?
I will, sir.
Thank you. I had a question about Rubicon, which I don't think as of yet we've had an answer to. About 2 weeks ago, I asked, how much has the city saved since the implementation of the Rubicon system, and have we finalized the routes? Can we look into a little bit of follow-up on that to see if we can get the answers to how much we have saved and if the routes have been finalized yet?
I'll reach out again, sir.
Thank you. We got an email about the fleet of electric vehicles that the city has purchased. I heard that they had been purchased. I knew it was in the ARPA plan, but I wasn't given official notice until I received an email. So I have several questions about these vehicles. Can we get, Mr. Voldenberg, a list of the individuals that are going to be assigned these cars, where these cars are going to be charged, the timeline for the completion of our charging station, where the cars are currently being stored, what make and model cars we purchased, what was the total ARPA cost, where did we purchase them from, and were they bid through COSARs?
I'll ask all those questions, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Woldenberg. That's all, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild?
Yes, so I wanted to mention that yesterday morning I went on a ride, not in the electric vehicles, but I did see where those are being housed. Those are over at the Scranton Center. But I went on a ride with Andrew Sunday, Michael Goerty, who's a code enforcement officer, and then also Director Eileen Cipriani for community development. And we rode through the hill section. In the past, quite a few times I've done walkthroughs with code enforcement officers of the Hill neighborhood to find out what we're doing about certain properties, a lot of chronic problem properties. And this time driving through, we'd gone through streets that I'm not normally driving on, and some of the conditions that people are living in are atrocious, and it's just deplorable to see piles of garbage on people's properties or in their backyards, and some of the other things that I saw that it's really taken me aback. And I mean, we have a number of issues throughout the city with blight, and we still obviously have issues with compliance from people who have received, like we've gone through the process with giving them the violation letters and quality of life ticket after ticket after ticket, trying to bring them to the magistrate, and some people just blatantly ignoring everything that they get from the city, and no changes from happening. So I'm very interested in continuing to explore legislation that the city should have to, I know we've already tightened up the ordinance or increased fines, added the rental registration ordinance. I'm hoping the rental registration will also help, but it's not all rentals. Some of them are, being lived in by the property owners themselves. So this is just a major issue for me and for the city as a whole, not just for the hill section, but that was just where we had driven through, and a lot of times in the alleyways too, with garbage just being completely out of cans or blown over all over the place. And some of it was from university students that live there too, but certainly not all of them, but also be contacting the University of Scranton to see what we could do to get at least those students in off-campus housing to help with the garbage, because it's looking pretty bad right now. So just wanted to mention that. And we had also received a response from the Deputy Solicitor for the city regarding a question a resident had last week on aggressive dog legislation, and what he had sent to us was that there's already like a robust dangerous dog law through the state, and if a dog is deemed dangerous, then there's several owners that there are several steps that the owner needs to take. Such dog owners must pay a $500 registration fee, and they're subject to a fine of up to $5,000 for failing to follow the dangerous dog law. But some state law does prevent the city from prohibiting or limiting a specific breed of dog, which I wasn't personally interested in doing anyway, but I know we've had questions about in the past. And then we did have a number of conversations last year. They had conversations with stakeholders as well. They determined to add a part-time position to the animal control department to help aid in animal control throughout the city. But there's nothing else at this time that I think that it looks like the administration is considering in terms of legislation. So that's everything that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew.
Okay, so being National Women's History Month, an involved citizen by the name of Deborah Nehus contacted me with a great idea. For council, for us to do a proclamation for women who were first to occupy government positions in Lackawanna County. Ms. Nehus is graciously conducting the research for this proclamation and would like it done before the end of the month. So when I receive this information, I would like to ask our very own proclamation wizard, Kathy Carrera over there, to help us with that proclamation. Thank you. And so last night, the Scranton School District leaders recognized West Scranton Intermediate staff and students who saved a child from drowning on February 24th. Physical education teacher Paul Devine rescued the child from the water and began performing CPR. Mark Loretti, the swim coach, also assisted with CPR and helped revive the child. In addition to some students and teachers, they're all involved. I would like for us on council to do the same with a proclamation on behalf of these brave heroes of West Intermediate. So, Kathy, could you help us with that one too? Thank you. That is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. I just have some follow-ups from the previous week. It's something was mentioned tonight about the audit. That Dominique's city finance director advised Foster & Foster, the actuary for the Gatsby 75 report. He advised Friday afternoon, the police would have been finalized, that was last Friday, followed by the non-uniform on Monday, March 6th, which would have been yesterday, and then the fire by Friday, as I mentioned earlier, March 10th. Kelly Lindsay with Kohansky and Company advised Matt that they can finalize the audit once the status received from the actuary. So we're hoping that they'll have everything they need by this Friday, and they'll be able to finalize it really quickly afterwards. Mr. Domini's further advised that he's in regular contact with the Clifton, Lawson, and Allen, new audit firm for the city. They hope to start the 2022 audit in mid-April. If you could just check on the law department about sending the name up for approval from council.
I will, sir.
Thank you. Also, Doris Klosky mentioned, I think there was something with DPW, was advised the walk, don't walk signs at the intersection of Mulberry Street and Harrison Avenue were damaged, and we've requested repair. Is that correct, Mr. Woldenberg?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schumacher had mentioned, council requested our interim Parks and Rec director to review the swings and other playground equipment at Naog Park and all city parks and advise their condition to council. So we're waiting for that report, but they're on. We have them on it, Marie. And the city law department advised that they have not yet secured an outside party to review and secure easements related to the Meadowbrook flood project. Les Spindler had some concerns. New paved cut inspector compiled a spreadsheet listing all paved cuts and status, and we'll have it to council this week. List is complete but needs updated format via the IT for council review. City Law Department advised there's no aggressive dog, oh, we just talked about the dog issue, so thank you, Dr. Rothchild, for addressing that as well. That's all I have at this time.
5B for introduction, an ordinance establishing regulations and restrictions for the location and use of lots, land, buildings, and other structures, the height, number of stories, and size and bulk of buildings and structures, the density of population, off-street parking, and similar accessory regulations in the city of Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, and for said purposes dividing the city of Scranton into districts and establishing the boundaries thereof, prescribing certain uniform regulations for each such district, and providing for administrative enforcement and amendment of its provisions in accordance with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, 53 PS, Section 10101, et sec, as amended.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, so I do have two sets of amendments. I'd like to make a motion to approve two sets of amendments to go with item 5B. So the first one is I would like to amend Article 5, Section 5.16 regarding solar energy systems. I would like it to be defined as solar energy systems means a system of panels containing photovoltaic cells, either rooftop or on the ground, including all necessary appurtenances, that this is intended to generate power for consumption on-site to residents or businesses. And 5.17, principal solar energy systems, PSESs, which would be defined as an area of land or other area used for solar collection system, principally used to capture solar energy, convert it to electrical energy or thermal power, and supply electrical or thermal power for off-site use on lots of more than 1 acre.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to amend 5B of the zoning ordinance. I don't have it written down the exact, what is it, 516, 5.16 solar energy systems and 5.17 principal solar energy systems, to add them to the zoning.
To add these definitions to the new zoning ordinance.
Okay. On the question. I haven't really had an opportunity to take a serious look at what you're requesting. This is kind of the first I'm hearing of it. So those do not exist in the existing zoning ordinance, correct?
They do not.
Okay. So we're adding additional definitions.
Yeah, there's two sections of the code here, 5.16, 5.17, one regarding solar energy systems, the second regarding principal solar energy systems, and they're not defined in the code. There's multiple attributes to each, but they're not technically defined.
Okay. So if this were to move forward, this motion, I would have to ask our solicitor, Attorney Gallagher, if this motion were to move forward, it still would need final approval by 7th order. So
You would be amending the zoning ordinance.
oh,
what
we'd
you're
actually
trying
be
to-
amending it, so then as it moved forward from here, that would be included. I just want a clarification on that.
It would be included in the zoning ordinance that you're trying to introduce tonight.
Okay.
So it would be an amended zoning ordinance for all intents and purposes, adding Tom's definition. And
Thank
then you would vote on that zoning ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
On the question, if we could maybe hold off on that amendment tonight, and if you could provide us with the written definitions, I think that'd be more helpful to give us time to review the amendment and the changes prior to adding them.
On the question, I would agree with that. I'm not sitting here saying I'm against that amendment. It's just that I would like to kind of look at it, how it fits into the existing zoning. So I'm not saying that next week, if it moves to 6th order, that I would not, that I'd be against that. I just would like to look into it a little further. That's all I...
Yeah, I can understand everybody wants to look at it a little further. It's been something I've been looking at for some time. It's come up at the zoning meeting. Some other things have come up at planning meetings, so it's been on the table. With that being said, I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable moving this forward or introducing without some of these things included, so I may be voting no when it comes to that time, but I do understand the opinion.
Well, on the question, there's a motion on the table, so
Right.
we have to vote on it.
So if there's no further questions on the motion, we'll take it to a vote at this time.
So this would be a vote on the amendment?
This would be a vote on the amendment to add that language to 5.16 and 5.17.
Yeah. On the question, like I said, I would like just some more time to review it. I mean, these definitions, they make sense to me as of now, but I just want to make sure that I take the time before voting yes on the amendment. So I'd appreciate if, if the amendment does not go through today, if it's brought up in the following meeting after we have time to review. And I also wanted to ask where the definitions came from. I just want to make sure they're legally sound and have our solicitor review them as well if he hasn't.
One more thing, Mr. King. Is this something that we can bring up again next Tuesday at the next meeting? If it doesn't go tonight, is this something that we can reintroduce?
If it doesn't go tonight, it could be reintroduced next week during prior to 6th order.
Okay.
Keep in mind that there's going to be a public hearing on this before you take a final vote, so.
And I believe the public hearing will not occur until 30 days past 6th order, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing more on the motion, if we could go to the vote.
Mr. Smurl?
No.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
No.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
No.
All right.
The 3-2, the motion fails.
All right. Also on the question, I have another motion to amend. I would like to amend the zoning map to provide that the odd side of the street of the 200 block of Colfax Ave be zoned to Town City Institutional, so it would be the same as the even side of the 400 block of Colfax. And secondly, I'd like to amend the zoning map to provide that the even side of the 200 block of Colfax be zoned city mixed-use residential to be the same as the outside of the 400 block of Colfax.
Second.
There's been a motion and seconded to adjust the ordinance to change the 200 block of Colfax from civic to institutional, and the 200, I guess it would be the even side of 200, to mixed city use. On the question.
So on the question, we're going to see a Geisinger expansion. I don't think that a height restriction is going to change the fact that the hospital will be expanding. I do think we've heard a lot from the citizens in neighborhood meetings, at city planning commission meetings, et cetera, and I do think this would be a compromise between Geisinger and the Hill Section residents. The point of zoning is to keep the integrity of the neighborhoods, and it would still keep the structure of, if the hospital would like a variance, they could come in front of the zoning board to get that variance.
Anyone else?
Yeah, on a question. So I'm a neighborhood guy, and I'm a man of reason and compromise. I appreciate the hard work that Don King and his staff did for the new zoning ordinance. But I stand for the residents of the Hill Section, and I stand with the residents of Fawnwood. I'm not against progress or advanced health care. I don't feel that a reasonable compromise would greatly affect Geisinger's $280 million plus expansion plan. There'll be plenty of work for the unions and their members. So that is why I'm for this amendment.
Anyone else on the question?
Well, I just have one comment, and I learned this evening from Councilperson Rothchild, that the one existing garage right now is 86 feet, and the second garage that they were planning to tear down, both of those, I guess, the second was 75 feet. She gave us a number of the amount of cars that would fit. And I believe we need that amount of parking for the future expansion of the hospital. So.
Also on the question, I believe that if we end up lowering the height of the parking in the 200 block, it may very well kill this project. And I also believe that, as was announced here tonight, that there is dire need in the city for health care, expanded health care, and it's not just about garages. It's going to be expanding the hospital to improve health care and to add services to the city. Greatly, much needed. And keep in mind, we have the emergency room at Moses Taylor, which is going to be closing April 1st, which is going to add even more stress to the existing situation at Geisinger. Furthermore, we are going to be adding plenty of jobs for construction over the next 2 to 3 years for this project, for local workers, local union workers, on top of ultimately expanding the workforce at Geisinger to the tune of approximately 120 new jobs, from what I understand. They're planning to increase resources for trauma, heart attack, stroke care, and additional services with that. And from what Dr. Rothchild had indicated earlier this evening was that the new parking garage in the 200 was likely not to exceed 80 feet, or is that correct? Excuse me.
8 stories would be the height
right.
of the proposed new one on the 200, yeah.
Right, and then there's already an existing 86-foot parking garage there now. So therefore, I can't support this amendment.
On the question, I have a number of thoughts and comments about this amendment and about the zoning ordinance. I've really, over the past year, been trying to seriously take a look at this from all sides. And it's difficult for me because the Hill is my home, and I love the neighborhood, we bought our home there, I think back in 2017, but I was a student at the U and had rentals in the Hill before that. We lived in other parts of the city, and then ultimately chose to come back to that neighborhood, and that's truly where my heart is. And so it was, very difficult for me as well to see the homes that were demolished and that were purchased by Geisinger to move forward with this expansion. And I'm not happy with the way that things were done either. And I know that for the neighbors, there's a lot of broken trust, and there's a lot of fear of the unknown and what's to come in the future for them and for the neighborhood that they also care so much about. At the same token, those homes or those properties are gone now. And I don't want to see the lot stay vacant. And that has happened in other parts of the city, like over near Moses Taylor. There's been a lot for many, many years that was purchased, same thing, homes were demolished and nothing was done with. So I really don't want to see that happen here. Like I said, I've been having conversations between the neighbors, with Geisinger. I've met with Don King, with a number of people to continue these conversations and to see what we need to do as a city in this zoning ordinance. And I've brought forward before concerns from neighbors regarding the height, but not only that, but the appearance and the aesthetics of the proposed expansion and the garages, the noise, the traffic, the lighting, a lot of things that have been concerns for a few years with their current garages too. So I want to ensure that they continue to take these concerns seriously in the expansion. Now, there was the compromise on the 400 block that changing from a civic zone to institutional, so that would cap the height at, I believe it's 45 feet, and wouldn't be higher than the former Audubon School was. That was there previously. And there is a lot of, a larger lot and a larger land there that they don't have to go as high. They could go shorter from what I've been told. And it wouldn't take up the entire block. There would be part for possibly a pocket park or green space. They're working that out with the neighbors. They've also proposed an advisory council with the neighbors to continue these conversations throughout the process. The problem still remains on the 200 block and what will happen there, and that's the amendment that you're seeing put forth tonight. So there's this notion that they're not actually expanding the hospital and that they're just building garages, which I want to clear up and clarify, because the two current garages that they have on the 300 Colfax, right across from the main hospital building itself, those garages will be no longer garages. Those would be part of the expansion of the hospital. Also, from what I've been told, what their plans are is to not only expand the emergency department, which you heard a little bit about before as to why that's so problematic, the lack of space that they have in there, but they also they still have rooms where there's more than one person in a room, and they want to get to single patient rooms throughout the hospital to better their care. And they are looking into additional programs and units that they don't currently have there, like the possibility of a pediatric wing, which they don't have and which the city really, really could use. I also come from the perspective of being in healthcare. I've said many times here, I'm a physical therapist. I don't have any conflicts with Geisinger. I just want to make sure I put that out there. I've never worked for Geisinger. And being in healthcare, I do understand the realities too of needing that space and wanting to provide that service to the community. I personally don't want to have to go outside of the area for my care. And I've gone to the ED a couple of times with my daughter in the past, and every time the waiting room is insanely packed to the point where I've stood outside with her because I felt more comfortable with that as opposed to sitting there in the emergency department. And thankfully, because of her age, they would take her quickly back, but we would be passing by gurney after gurney with people on it in the hallways of the emergency department just to get back to the room that we were able to get into, but that's not the case for many. And so I understand the need there. And so that would be what they plan for the 300 block, is to then extend the hospital onto there to get rid of the garages. So I have some numbers. I've been trying to do my due diligence in asking as many questions as I can to help me in making a thoughtful decision here. So just to explain what I was told, that the current garages on the 300 of Colfax, there's an employee lot, there's a visitor lot. The employee lot is at a height of 86 feet, and the visitor lot is at 75 feet. And then the total spaces between those two garages, the parking they have in Naog, and then a leased lot in Dunmore that they shuttle employees from, total is a little over 1,400 spots. And with these new proposed garages on the 400 block, that would give them 700 spots. So that's the shorter but longer garage. And then on the 200 block, the way that it's proposed now, being in a civic zone, if it was 8 stories, which is what their plan is for that, then that would give them 900 spots. So that would be a total of 1,600 spots. So not only would that cover the amount of parking that they have now, but it would also give them additional parking because they anticipate with increased services, added employees, and more visitors, more cars that they need parking for while getting those vehicles out of Naog Park. Now, they would still continue paying like Naog Park through the contract that they have, but they ideally do not want the parking to be there in the park. They'd rather on their own campus rather than having employees and people walk from there. So that's some of the information that I've received and I wanted to share. So I am trying to look at the bigger picture. This is zoning ordinance for the entire city, not just for one section of the city. And at this time, I'm going to say no to the amendment because I do think it's preemptive. I want to wait to hear from Don King next week as well. I want to hear what people continue to have to say for the public hearing. I've been hearing from people from both sides, those who want the expansion, are favorable to Geisinger, and those who are neighbors and who want the zones changed. So I'm going to continue listening, and maybe perhaps this amendment could be revisited.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. On the question, anyone further?
Yeah, further on the question, I'd like to apologize to my colleagues for putting this out here. I do think the conversation needed to be started early. I think anybody that watches meetings watches that sometimes I will vote no to introduction, and it's because I'd like to get the conversation started before it moves ahead to sixth order and then to final passage, because sometimes I think once it gets there, it goes too far. I will be voting no for introduction tonight. I would have liked that council would have gotten our amendments together to be on the same page moving forward as we go. But I do know there's going to be a lot of talk from now until final passage, and hopefully we'll get some of these amendments in there before final passage.
Anyone else on the question?
No.
So there's been a motion to amend the 5B zoning ordinance to change the 200 block from civic to institutional, and on the even block to mixed residential. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
No.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
No.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
No. 3-2 vote. The ayes have it, and so moved. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. That was on the amendment. So now we're back to the motion. We've had a motion, we've had a second. So now we'll have a roll call for the actual 5B.
Objection?
So prior to that, just on the question, in the beginning when the draft rolled out, it did roll out to the neighborhood associations, and a lot of those associations did get to review that draft. They came back with what their thoughts were for their own particular section of Scranton. I do feel a sufficient amount of time has passed. It's been over a year that the draft and updates have been out there. I haven't really heard from any other neighborhoods other than these two particular neighborhoods. So I feel like this ordinance has been vetted. If anything comes up in the future, I think it's late by that point. We've seen that several times here with the city, but these are still the neighborhoods I'm hearing from when it comes to the new zoning ordinance.
So back to the original 5B. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes. The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to Tree Pennsylvania, PA Urban and Community Forestry for 20 bare root trees from the Bare Roots Tree Program to be planted on streets and parks owned by the city and nonprofit organizations.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into the proper committee.
So moved.
Second?
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file the council number 52, 2023, an ordinance amending the rental ordinance of 2022 by extending the 2023 rental license deadline to September 15th, 2023.
If we're reading by title of item 6A, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second?
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, Resolution Number 210, 2023, authorizing Fire Chief, Emergency Management Coordinator John J. Judge IV to act as agent for City of Scranton for emergency and disaster relief pursuant to the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, and authorizing city officials to execute the designation of agent documentation.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, 8A, file the council number 53, 2023.
This ordinance is the establishment of an environmental advisory council for the city and is tabled until more information is received. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.